In a quiet corner of Ashdown Park, in a place the locals simply called Windy Town, stood a school that many parents believed was special. Its name was Green Gale Primary School. And for a long time, it really was special. Green Gale was a private school, run by a modest school board, and led by its founding headmaster, Michael Smith. Michael was a widower, quiet, dedicated, a man who poured himself into his work after losing the love of his life. When Green Gale opened its doors, it had just 200 students, and a reputation for exceptional teaching. The school ran lean, very lean. There was only one administrative assistant, Ms. Judith Timmons. She handled everything: student admissions, tuition fees, invoices, receipts, school accounts. For years she managed. Green Gale didn't stay small. It grew fast. Soon, there were 1,000 students. 5 times the teachers. 5 times the paperwork. But still, one Ms. Timmons. Invoices went out late. Receipts weren't issued on time. Overdue payments weren't followed up. And quietly, dangerously, cash flow problems began to surface. Salaries started coming late. Teaching materials ran short. Attendance registers were missing. End-of-term assessment reports were delayed or incomplete. The staff reacted in different ways. Some stayed silent. Some complained quietly. And some saw opportunity. One senior teacher stood out. David Witcher. Power-hungry, sharp-tongued, and convinced that Michael Smith had lost control. Behind closed doors, David began to whisper, to stir frustration, to fan resentment. He told teachers what they already feared, that the school was failing, and that it needed new leadership. But not everyone chose confrontation. In one quiet classroom taught Dorothy Bellington, something different was happening. Dorothy was reserved, a spinster, highly organized. Instead of complaining, she researched. Late at night, she searched for solutions. That's when she found something interesting. Dorothy discovered a comprehensive digital school management suite called Weckware. It handled attendance registers, end-of-term reports, invoices and receipts, student data and analysis. She adopted it quietly, just for her class. Attendance went digital. Reports were emailed directly to parents. Records were clean, accurate, on time. While the rest of the school struggled, Dorothy's classroom ran like clockwork. Meanwhile, David made his move. He led a group of angry teachers to the school board. They issued an ultimatum: change the headmaster, or face a strike. David presented himself as the solution. And the board, under pressure, gave in. Michael Smith was removed. David Witcher became headmaster. David centralized power immediately. His first order: Ms. Timmons was to produce a list of fully paid-up students. Every morning, David stood at the school gate, holding a 20-page list. Only paid-up students were allowed inside. Payments improved. But chaos followed. The lists were often outdated. Parents who had paid were turned away. Arguments erupted at the gate. Ms. Timmons, already overwhelmed, was drowning. Parents were furious. And many began threatening to pull their children out of Green Gale altogether. At a tense school development committee meeting, parents confronted the board. They accused the school of ruining their children's experience. Then something unexpected happened. Parents with children in Dorothy's class stood up. They praised her consistency, her organization, her calm leadership. They asked one question: why wasn't she running the school? When the board approached Dorothy, she surprised them. She didn't want the job. Instead, she made a proposal: restore Michael Smith as headmaster, and let her help him implement a digital management solution, using Weckware. The board agreed. And Dorothy went to see Michael. Michael's home was chaos. Unwashed dishes. Clothes everywhere. He was confused, broken, lost. Dorothy didn't judge. She rolled up her sleeves, washed the dishes, cooked a meal, and gently told him her plan. Michael listened. And for the first time in months, he felt hope. After they had eaten, and the dishes were finally washed, Dorothy opened her laptop and turned it toward Michael. Michael, the school didn't fail because you stopped caring. It failed because it outgrew paper. Let me show you how Weckware fixes this, starting where the trouble began. Invoicing. When we enroll a student, we simply select their level of study, grade 1, form 4, whatever it is, and Weckware automatically generates the correct invoice for that grade. If a student joins late, or midterm, Weckware first checks whether they've already been invoiced. That means no double invoicing, and no missed fees. And if we ever want to do things manually, we still can. This screen may look familiar. Weckware uses digital paper technology. They look just like the paper invoice books we've always used, but they're alive. We can edit them, search them, and interact with them. Once an invoice is created, it's stored in a digital invoice book. We can open it anytime to search, view, or print any invoice. 3 months later, Greengale Primary School had regained its special feel. Students were learning well again. Teachers were happy. Classrooms were well supplied, and shortages were a distant memory. Order had returned, quietly, efficiently, and with it, hope. Dorothy and Michael had fallen into a gentle rhythm. Every weekend, they met to review Weckware's analysis reports, tracing patterns, identifying weak spots, and planning the coming week together. What began as work slowly became something deeper. They talked easily now. They laughed more. They trusted each other. And somewhere along the way, Michael realized the truth. He no longer needed Dorothy only as the person who had saved his school. He needed her in his life. One evening, after their usual weekend review, Michael asked her to stay a little longer. They sat together on the porch as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in warm gold and amber. After a long silence, Michael spoke softly. "Dorothy, I can't begin to thank you for all that you've done." She smiled gently. "The pleasure was mine," she said. "It would have been wrong to let others take what you worked so hard to build." Michael looked at her, then down at his hands. "Dorothy," he began, then hesitated. He took a breath. "I want more," he said quietly. "You've stolen my heart. I need you in my life." He looked up, meeting her eyes. "Will you be my wife?" Dorothy's smile trembled, then widened. "Yes," she said softly. "Yes, I will." She stood, then sat in his lap, wrapping her arms around his chest. "I've loved you for more than 5 years," she whispered. As the sun disappeared beyond the horizon, Greengale stood renewed. Not just as a school reborn through technology, but as a place where patience, partnership, and love had quietly won.